Nick, I need your help with something.
Yeah.
I've got this copy of Thursday, and I can't. It's stuck to my copy of Pulp Fiction.
That's hilarious.
Well, maybe if I just try to rip it off.
I want to attach another one is Clerks.
Clerks. Well, I got Clerks ripped off.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it ripped off of Clerks. I just can't get it ripped off of Pulp Fiction. Maybe you can help.
We're gonna talk a movie. I don't know. It's very cultish. Yeah. I don't know. Very many people are familiar with it.
Well, they're about to be. It's Thursday. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continued support of the show. Hey, the show is on Twitter and Instagram. You can contact us that way. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals. Today we're going to talk about a movie that's very polarizing, I would say. Some people really love it. Some people really hate it. There's really no middle ground. Let's see. I'm probably going to have that this way. It's the cult classic from the 90s, Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday on Thursday.
We're recording
on Thursday.
Right?
People don't like the day either. Architect Casey has successfully hidden his former life as a drug dealer and career criminal, or so he thought, until his former friend and partner Nick shows up at his door looking for a place to stow his heroin.
Nicks are always jerks.
Now, Casey has to put up with hitmen and a drug score about to go down right in front of him, all the while protecting his wife from his past.
Okay, so when it just came out, I really actually recommended it. It was a recommendation on the video when I worked at a video store. And I've had a lot of people come in. I hated that movie. To a lot of people, I really love that movie. And it's interesting to come to visit because I haven't seen it since 1998. In fact, I think kind of forgot about it. And that's one of the things about this movie is you kind of almost forgettable. But a lot of it has a core fan base of people really love it. But a lot of core piece of people really hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Roger Ebert really
he despised it.
Despised this movie, which is really interesting. So I would like to just, what's your take on it? Because I know it's very much Tarantino influence, but going back and visiting, I see a lot of Kevin Smith influence.
I think that's because of, I don't want to say it in a mean way, the cheapness factor. It looks cheap. It looks like it was shot, on kind of somebody's home video. The way I see it is there's a burger place named The Tavern that's right next to my home. I go there whenever I want a nice burger after a long week. Let's pretend that burger place is Pulp Fiction.
All right.
This movie is like McDonald's or Burger King. It's not inherently bad. It's just if you've got the time and energy to drive 5 more minutes to the nice burger joint, take it. So that's kind of what it comes down to me. I mean, you've got a writer-director, Skip Woods, who I know Skip Woods is a writer of movies I really like the A-Team film. He also did movies I really loathe, like X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I really love that one,
yeah. There's so much of that middle ground of, he's done great writing, he's done terrible writing, and this is kind of a movie that, you said people love it or hate it, I'm kind of like, all right. I'm really much in the middle of it. I don't think it's as bad as it is being believed, but it's just one of those things where if I've got Tarantino movies on my shelf, am I ever going to grab this one?
Yeah, and I see a lot of, you can very easily go right into Tarantino, but I see a lot of influences of Clerks, of the convenience store dialogue, the very gaudy dialogue, the very snap it like Thursday. It's very grainy looking. 6 p.m. looks like handwritten, so it's almost very amateurish that way. I don't know if it's intentional.
That's what's confusing. I don't know if it's supposed to look amateurish or if, it's not a big company. It won the special jury prize at the 1999 Cognac Festival. There is a Cognac Film Festival that celebrates crime movies in Cognac.
I asked, all right.
But it won the special jury prize. It actually tied with the movie A Simple Plan. So both those films were felt to be the epitome of 1999 crime films. So it got people that really, really chase after no, it's much better than you realize. For me, I kind of exist in the middle where it's I think some elements are really good, but then part of me is also that Roger Ebert inside of me saying yeah, they make a joke about male rape, and they make a joke that lasts a long time about male rape.
Which, did you really need it?
Yeah, and does it add anything to the movie? All it does is it takes the one female character that shows up a lot in the movie and turns her into a generic sex machine for the movie.
And after rewatching it for the show, I was like, you're really not doing anything with the female character in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just a throwaway just to connect the dots between the two male characters and create fiction, and just there's nothing really to her.
Yeah.
Other than wearing a suit. almost looked like candy suit. Yeah.
When you get Paula Marshall, who people don't talk about her much, but she's been in a lot of television
Paula
shows
Marshall's
and
the
movies
wife,
that I dig.
yeah.
She's the wife.
There's 2 Paulas in this.
She got to be in, she was in one of the best episodes of Seinfeld of all time. She is on one of my favorite shows, Californication. Like, she's in a lot of different things in smaller roles, doesn't get a lot of credit. And then I was surprised when I saw her in this movie. I was excited, and she's kind of just relegated to, like, the nagging wife. And then we have the sex pot character, and it's just like those are the 2 archetypes of the female characters. And then the problem is, though,
the only thing she's nagging him about is to grow up.
Is to stop, just to figure your life out, mate.
Grow up. No, I don't want to, man.
So you could criticize the female characters, sure. Mm-hmm. There's also every single male character in the movie fits an archetype as well. Like, they all fit that, like, classical archetype. It's just maybe that when we look at archetypes, female archetypes are often seen as more degraded than male archetypes, because the male archetypes are always cool, sly, awesome, and the female archetypes are always like nagging or overly sexual.
I think what it's trying, and you're absolutely right, I agree with you, but I think what it's trying to do is to really decimate the point of view of anybody living the suburban life as a fraud.
Yeah.
And how you get there is kind of a fraud, but the circumnavigate to going gaudy.
Yeah.
With crime, blowing the cashier, that's a very much almost a racist stereotype there with the cashier, and then the cop and everything. So it's almost a paint by numbers of what Tarantino sets up, but what Tarantino does with it is emphasize the necessity of the violence. You didn't need to shoot the cashier in the movie, but when you get in Reservoir Dogs, when Chris Penn shoots the cop, you understand his character's reason. Well, I don't need to deal with this. Bam, he's done.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's part of this, where you didn't understand the violence for this movie, and you chop up the pieces and you put it out in the garage.
Well, so let's talk about it. Like, there's a couple of storyline things that just kind of drive me nuts in this movie. Casey puts the heroin in the garbage disposal. Someone is looking for it. Like, you are not making your situation better by getting rid of it, and he knows that. Like, why? Like, I get the idea. You're trying to get rid of the drugs. I totally get that. But that is not the way to go.
Put it out in the street then, if you don't.
Leave it on the side of the outside your door with a little note on it that says "drug dealers." Here you go. Like, that's even more like in line, because you're probably not going to have many cops stopping in. Yeah. And then there's just things like, when does the garbage get picked up at this place? Like, it's a Thursday, garbage day, but no garbage is picking up 5 p.m.
For decapitated people, it's very clean garbage.
Very clean.
We watch enough true crime to know if you cut up pieces of people, it's a mess.
Yes.
And it doesn't.
We've watched enough shows. We have not done anything.
And he goes, and he just, it's Thomas Jane's character, Casey, and he just does it, and he just goes unscathed. Yeah. And the next thing is he's an architect, which we know takes 6 years of education in college.
That's true.
And to get a license, and you have to be proficient not only in geometry and mathematics, but you have to do architecture is a profession that's you can't just jump into.
Yeah.
You have to be fully committed. It's almost like being a doctor. Right?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
A lot of it is just kind of like just fill it in. Well, he's an architect. It's almost like Seinfeld. Well, I'm an architect. In suburbia.
Yeah.
In a cul-de-sac.
I like the idea that you point out that they're saying, because that is a very fundamental difference between this film and Tarantino's. Is like you said, anyone who lives in suburbia, anyone who tries to live a normal life is always a fraud, a fraudulent person hiding behind something else. Tarantino's big thing about his is that criminals are just like us except for the job. Like, they still have discussions about a royale with cheese is what they call it in Paris, but then they get to a place and they blow some people away. This movie, it's
just
almost like
the casualness of it. They're going to do something really awful. It's just a casual.
But it's just a job for them. It's kind of like when my dad used to tell me, like, the conversations he would have with the other firefighters right before they'd head into a building. And sometimes it was, what are you doing this weekend? We're going to go put our lives on the line to fight this fire. But it would be just things like, we were talking about the ball game the other day, and it's like, they're just like us except for the job. The job is what makes them different. Whereas, you're kind of right. Thursday is kind of like if the two leads from Clerks turned out to be hitmen. So you're right. It is kind of like a combination of the two.
Where you want to laugh at it, how ridiculous it is, but also you want to take it serious. It doesn't find the right balance for me.
Yeah, because I think the movie thinks it has charm.
Right.
Like, it thinks there's a charm to a lot of it, but I don't really like any of these characters.
I think the other thing is casting is because Aaron Eckhart and Thomas Jane are so interchangeable people. They're so much the same. the two guys who auditioned for Harvey Dent the Dark Knight. That's how similar they are.
Yeah.
I think you need to do something contrast a little bit because they're almost completely like brothers.
Yeah.
And it's just interchangeable. Like you can think, I was like, who would Aaron Harker play this guy or that guy? I'm trying to remember after 25 years, like what the heck.
When I never do this, but I was even accidentally calling them by the other name when I was trying to like describe them.
I'm
and
glad
I don't
because I
do
did that.
at all.
Yeah.
But even like I was gonna make the joke to my wife. This isn't to denigrate either actor because I actually really enjoy both of them. But I was thinking like Thomas Jane is kind of discount Aaron Eckhart, and Aaron Eckhart is kind of like discount Thomas Jane.
Right. Yes.
You know,
yeah.
and that's not a problem. I like both actors a bit, but yeah, you're right. They're so similar. I just don't know if either one of them is memorable enough. And like you said, that's the issue with the movie is its immemorability. It kind of siphons. You know, I watched this a week ago and then handed the copy off to you so we could watch it pretty close in proximity. And in that like week, it has siphoned out considerably. Where I went and looked up some clips because I was trying to remember certain aspects of the movie.
That's the thing is,
you know,
I critique and I talked about it with Brian Eggert on Twitter. Is you can have a bad film, that's fine. But have something memorable or unforgettable. And there's a lot of things like I had to retain what was that movie about. And there's a lot of things that are very forgettable for me, and a lot of things are not memorable for me. And then going back, there's some things you think should be.
Yeah. It's almost like a reverse bell curve where like good movies and bad movies are here, but then like immemorable movies are at the bottom of the bell curve where it's like they're not inherently bad, but it's almost worse. Like it's lower on quality for that. But then, I guess there's a difference between immemorable and boring. I wasn't bored watching Thursday, but I do think after time it has disappeared from my memory.
It will.
You
It
know?
will eventually. In 25 years, like, what is that movie?
Yeah.
What is that movie?
For season 28 of our show, we'll be like, we should talk Thursday.
Have we done it? Right, we done it. And that's the thing is, I don't mind a bad film, but you have to have something that's unforgettable and memorable. And if you don't have either of those, then it's the worst. It is, for me, it's worse than a bad movie.
Yeah.
Because there's some things you can take from a bad movie.
Yeah.
I don't think Armageddon is a great movie, but there's things there's memorable things about it.
I showed Armageddon to my wife on July 4th this last year. She'd never seen the movie before, and she's like, "It's a bad movie." But then part of it, she was referencing like and talking about it for a month or two afterwards because it at least is there. It's up here. You never really forget an experience like watching Armageddon, even it's bad, you know. But this movie does have a few things that I really enjoyed. I'm a defender and fan of Glenn Plummer. From Showgirls and
he
Saw
plays this
2
Western guy, this
Speed.
hillbilly. I'm Billy. I'm hillbilly or Billy.
Oh no, that's James LaGrosse. That's Glenn Plummer is Ice. He's the
another
guy
thing you can do with this
weed.
movie.
Yeah.
You just started everybody.
That's the problem. Yeah. So Glenn Plummer is he's our character Ice, who shows up and he's like, "I got to kill you right at the beginning of the movie. Let's smoke some weed first."
That's him.
Glenn Plummer is a character actor to beat all character actors who doesn't really ever get a lot of credit. I think this is one of the most enjoyable times I've seen him in a movie.
He's having
because
fun.
He's playing to the stereotype, but he's also you can tell he's having fun with it too, and that's something Glenn Plummer tends to do with his roles. Is he finds a small character and just kind of expands it as much as he can. I was also a fan of Michael Jeter. He's an actor we lost back in 2001, I think, and he was the adoption guy. Yeah, and I'm a fan of Michael Jeter. Again, another one of those actors. He comes in and he makes the role as big as he can. But the fact that the most comedic part of the movie for me was that he had this woman over that he couldn't trust, and then Michael Jeter is interviewing him about his past, and kind of like it's like a classic sitcom
Paula,
scenario.
what's her name?
It's Paulina Porizkova.
There you go. Yes, she was famous from the video Drive by the Cars, and then she married Rick Ocasek. And then this is the movie that's after not doing movies for many years, she comes back and does this one, which is really weird.
Very strange choice, yeah. Who else was there? Mickey Rourke, of course.
That was weird. I didn't look at the casting, and then all of a sudden I watched it and it's like, yeah, he comes in.
But it doesn't matter if you look at the casting, because his name shows up in the opening credits, and I forgot he was in it when he showed up. I was like, oh, Mickey Rourke, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that. Like,
but he does well for what he has in there.
Mm.
I mean, you can tell he's still a very good actor. Him and Thomas Jane have really
they have good chemistry together, which is weird to say because they share so little time. But he kind of reminded me of a Winston Wolfe. If we're gonna make those Quentin Tarantino references, he reminded me of like the cleaner. He comes in and he's like, you got to do this right, you got to fix that. Like, I'm gonna help you take care.
Is he really a cop, or is that just a fake badge to get in the door? Because I don't think he's a real cop. I think he was just.
But again, that comes down to is the movie intentionally cheap looking? Because it could just be like, it looked like you got something at Sabres or the Halloween section. But was it supposed to be, or would they just not have any money?
I think it'd be a better story if it was a gaudy fake badge that got him in the door, and it was just he's not a cop at all.
Oh, that's fair.
I think for me, it makes it more of a better story.
But you'll notice I was kind of picking out, like, trying to find a poster for the movie to put behind us here.
Yeah.
If you look at the poster behind us, it's a photo of Thomas Jane and Mickey Rourke are the two heads on this poster. That is the only poster that I could find for this movie.
Not Aaron Eckhart.
Aaron Eckhart's not featured on the poster. No one else is. So it's really celebrating the fact that Mickey Rourke, who had not even come back yet, really, like, to the public eye for Sin City, hadn't even hit that yet, is like, he's the guy we got to promote. You know?
Of course, when he critiqued this movie, there's another movie I went to, we critiqued a couple months ago, and I want you to go back. It's very much like Things to Do in Denver when they're
I was
dead.
thinking of that movie, yep.
Yeah.
And even just to an element of, like, playing God, where they both kind of, they, like, are trying to skirt into that realm. They're trying to be like those movies.
Not high-class criminals, but this very cheaply, almost Elmer Leonard kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is a more polished-looking movie. It feels like a movie that was shot and made for that.
Very that glossy suit stuff.
I really, looking at the differences there is that both films are kind of about botched jobs as a criminal. It's just that Thomas Jane's character makes some really stupid decisions in this, whereas, like, at least our lead in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is not the idiot in the room. He's not the guy who's causing the problems. He's just, like, reacting to it. His biggest problem in that movie is he
answers the door.
His biggest problem in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead is
Things to Do in Denver.
allowing the guy he can't trust to be in the front car, because then that guy makes the bad call that they're chasing the whole rest of the movie. And it's like, that's a friendship-related choice that defeats him, whereas this is kind of like his friendship. He's like, hey, you're going to come into my home. Oh, you got a bunch of heroin. Let me flush it down the drain. That's like, he kind of dooms everyone at that point, when he could have just given the heroin to the guy. I'm not a guy who's saying drugs are cool, but, like, get yourself out of the situation, guy.
Right, because if you came over and brought a metal suitcase full of heroin, I would just put it out on the front steps and said, here.
Yeah.
And then you get mad at me like, well, that's your problem.
Yeah. Like, what I would, there's a way to get around it where you don't have to do any of the work then. But, like, the choice to get rid of it is choosing to have a worse day. Because he's lived a life of a criminal. He's
Thursday.
Capable. Yeah. We don't like Thursdays. But but he's making these choices that doom himself. And it's like, why are you self-destructive in this way? I don't know.
But I think it's important to see, because you see the aftershock of Tarantino's impression on films, and everybody kind of want to emulate it. These almost like Elmer Leonard kind of a thing, is these environments where there's these cheap bad guys and the fraudulent suburbia stuff.
Yep.
And it's very 90s. I mean, when you do flashbacks, it has to go black and white.
Yep. And like that, like, kind of the camera is like swimming a little bit.
Grainy camera and that black and white, almost like what Kevin Smith used for Clerks.
Yep.
The flashbacks, the hairstyle, and everything. But it's just not the script is very doughy. It needed to be in the oven a little bit longer.
Yeah. It feels like the first pass. Yeah. And not something that is like, I'm ready to shoot this. One other thing I wanted to point out, because this is kind of something that completely took me out of the movie, is there's again the assumption that Tarantino uses the N-word in his movies, so we can too. Yeah. And I don't like, the thing about it is, I'm not defending any use of it, because if you don't like the use of that word inside the movie, I totally understand. In Tarantino's movies, it's a little bit more so like a term of description between two characters at one point.
When Tarantino uses it in Pulp Fiction to address Samuel L. Jackson, they have a history.
Yeah, Jackson's reaction to him saying it is how that word is defined. Yeah. This is a movie where you've got two white guys going into a room with a bunch of black guys and calling them the N-word, and that doesn't make me like our two white guys at all.
No.
Does that make sense? Like, it's one where, like, it's kind of like the Asian joke in Licorice Pizza, where it's like, it's not so much that you're trying to use the word to give, like, you're trying to use this to give, like, some character development, but it doesn't work in that way for me.
You're trying to navigate that, the rough guys.
Yeah.
Where it just goes racist.
Yeah, it just makes them racist guys.
Yeah, racist guys. And then the idea that you can go in a room full of, they all have to be black.
Yeah, they all have to be black. The two white guys and a bunch of black guys.
The two white guys can shoot up the room and take the drugs. Yeah, it doesn't, you want to, and then you well, let's redo a reverse rape of the woman raping
Yeah, because
the
that'll
guy.
make it okay,
That'll make
right?
it okay.
Or it'll be funny because especially in the '90s, like there were jokes about that a little bit more frequently. We didn't have as much of a focus on trying to help people as we do now, or as we should have now. But making a joke about it, if it's turned on the guy, it'll be funny. And it's like, I think here's the point, and here's you missing it. Like you're focused on the wrong elements of what you should be doing, and that kind of takes me out of the movie.
You and I are both writers, and I want to talk about if your characters are searching for the authentic self. I don't believe that for anybody involved. If they're searching for their authentic, other than just trying to get away with it.
Yeah.
There's trying to do some kind of redemption, correct things, but that's just kind of a last Hail Mary pass at the end there. Are you showing me where it hurts? Are you in pain? I don't think anybody really is in pain. I don't think anybody learns their lesson. I don't think anybody really evolves. I don't think anybody really changes.
The person who changes in the movie is Paula Marshall's character, because she's forced to decide, am I going to stick with this guy that's kind of a scumbag crumb boy, or am I going to just keep with my job
with this annoying pain in the ass?
But part of me is like, why would she choose to go with it? She's the one who changes because she accepts a life of less focus, a life of less planning, whereas he's the wild card. But it's like, but we don't spend any time with Paula Marshall's character unless we're seeing her through his eyes, so we don't care about her character very much. So why do we care that she makes the choice? I feel like, yeah, he needs to make this call, but the problem is again, like, he makes a mistake, but he can't own up to it because the entire film is about him dealing with the flushing of the heroin, and he doesn't learn, he doesn't evolve at all. You're right. It's just kind of it's frustrating.
Yeah, and there's just little elements of writing props, like the cow phone, which is supposed to be a comedic gag, but it's just annoying.
Yeah, and again, like it's she's vegan, she doesn't eat that kind of stuff, so we're just gonna have a bunch of cows all around, and
it's missing the mark. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the hamburger phone in the movie Juno, but in Juno, it's a momentary thing that tells you about the character.
It's an adolescent kind of a thing.
Yeah, it tells you about Juno, whereas this doesn't tell me anything about Casey or Christine. I don't know anything more about them. It doesn't flesh anything out for me. It's just a quirk for the sake of being a quirk. It's the Napoleon Dynamite of descriptors.
Right. If you want to do a write about an inanimate object, like the watch from Pulp Fiction, have to give it history, the importance of it.
Oh, see, that's what we're missing then. We need Christopher Walken to do a monologue about the cow phone.
Hey, if Christopher Walken's deliver pizza, he'll come to my door. No problem. Even if I didn't order pizza, he's coming to my door. So yeah, it's not. The characters are not really plausible. The story doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I think going back, I have probably images of what I thought it should be, what I wish it could be, than what it really is.
And it's too bad because, again, I don't want to just sit here and just, like, take a big dump on this movie because there's things that work in it. And I think it would have almost been fun to have almost like a series of these where you could have had a Friday afterwards that would have been about the next day as they get off the plane or something. Like, you could have done something more with these characters and kind of really enveloped that world a little bit. If we were talking about it in today's standards, I would have liked to have seen what happened next if the characters were fleshed out enough to make me interested in them.
I'm not interested in anybody. That's kind of the sad thing when we talk about movies. You have to be interested in it. And like I said, good story. What you need for a good story is a good story, but also what carries a good story is really good characters. And there's none of this.
Yeah, and again, comes down to it. Likable or interesting.
And really,
and none of them interest me enough to make their unlikability.
No matter what you wear, even though you have some cool clothes on, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, because we have cool clothes on, but we're also popular.
And we know a lot of people are, and I'm not going to shun you, it's just, you're not going to get it from me. A lot of people really love this movie. A lot of people really hate this movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody has an opinion. Put a comment down below what you think of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like you said, though, a lot of people love or hate this movie. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I didn't hate watching it, but
we're going to forget about it in 10 years.
Yeah, I'm going to go get my nice burger somewhere else instead. So where do you get your burgers in terms of Quentin Tarantino and Skip Woods? Let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on the movie Thursday. Would you have liked to see a crossover with the movie Friday? Let us know. We'd love to hear about that. And hey, if you want to tell us what movie we should talk about next, that Patreon is the best way to do so. You could sacrifice 1 cup of coffee every single month, join the Patreon, and pick a different movie.
There is a movie called Friday.
There's a movie called Friday. We could probably find a couple like Saturday, Sunday. We get a whole week-long event.
There's a movie called Saturday the 14th, though.
Oh, yeah. That one's, we should do that one. But if you want us to do that, go to that Patreon and join now. And then thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
Make sure to like and subscribe. They're 2 free things that you can do that help out the channel immensely.
Yes.
And you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my podcast, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.
And we'll see you next Thursday.
Oh, you had to do it.
We have episode Saturday too. Please watch that.